Greetings, friends. Your cartoonist pal Stan here with a brand new episode of Random Encounters, the show where I use random encounter tables, like the kind you find in tabletop role playing games, such as Dungeons and Dragons, and together with input from folks in the live chat and the creative soup that is going on inside my head, I take what's on those tables, use an electronic die roller to randomly make selections of a who, a creature, a character, a a, a type of D&D character, and a what, a situation, a place, a time, something happening, and mash them together, and then draw that. Don't know what it's going to be? I mean, I know what I put on the list, but like I say, folks in the chat, they get to help to modify that. Or sometimes we ignore what we roll entirely. And so it's a randomly generated drawing prompt, and I draw it for fun. For fun, it's all about the fun. I come here every week because I enjoy doing this. It's a lot of fun for me. I like hanging out with you guys. I like telling stories and giving little tips about what I'm thinking about while I'm drawing, answering questions you have, all that fun stuff. It's a good time. If you're not here right now, if you're watching this on replay, you should think about joining us some Thursday, huh? I mean, I bet you'd enjoy it. I bet you'd like it. I know I do. Anyway, all that said, it is time for me to grab my iPad Pro. I do all the drawing on an iPad Pro with an Apple Pencil using the app Procreate, none of which are sponsors. There are no sponsors on this show currently. Actually, there have never been any sponsors on the show. Maybe that'll change someday. And but I let people know because they want to know what are you using? What tools do you use to do this drawing? These are the tools I use here. The tools I use for my professional cartooning. Pretty much all the work I do these days is done on the iPad with Procreate. I still use physical drawing and other apps and digital filters, but most, by far and away, most of the drawing I do is just like this. Pardon me. I feel like I'm going to sneeze. All right. As I'm getting ready here, I realized one thing I didn't do was get my dice all ready. Okay, here we go. All right, here we go. Excited. I'm excited. We're going to do this. We're going to have a fun evening of drawing and such. So, it's time for me to come on over here and let you see this week's encounter tables, and then come over to the die roller and see what we get for our first randomly paired. Come on. Suddenly stopped. I was tapping the screen and it stopped rolling. Okay, here we go. What do we got? We got a 2 and a 7. A 2 and a 7. So come back here, and it tells me that that is a Rabbitfolk and a Bigfoot sighting. Hey, Michael and chat. Good to see you. Good to see you. Glad you could join tonight. Always a pleasure to see you in the chat room. Rabbitfolk, Bigfoot sighting. Okay. All right. That seems reasonable. So, Rabbitfolk, not a traditional D&D race, but these days there are a lot more just kind of anthropomorphic animals that are showing up in a lot of the games, and I think that's great, right? You want to play a character that's basically like Bugs Bunny or Roger Rabbit or whatever anthropomorphic rabbit you want. Great, that should be a thing, and it is here. Of course, having said Bugs Bunny, that makes me think about just kind of drawing drawing Bugs Bunny as our rabbit folk, but that seems almost like cheating. Yeah, no, Michael says something about the size of the feet. That seems like a good way to go. All right, so we're gonna come here. We're gonna have a rabbit. The big kind of big feet. Move that off to the side a little bit. And then, of course, we'd have a Bigfoot over here. Just a big old guy. So yeah, I'm thinking your idea of rabbits. We got rabbits with always big feet. It's kind of yeah. Kind of like what's so special about big feet? I don't know that I want to stick with that as the. Maybe it's like, oh, you think you're so special. If we're gonna stick with that, I think maybe that's a better thing. Oh, you think you're so special. Michael says, "Put up or shut up, baby, or buddy." I mean, alternatively, I'm gonna turn this off for a second, or put a new layer in there for a second, right? Alternatively, we could have them standing side by side, comparing their feet. Or, I guess what Michael's suggesting is Bigfoot puts his foot up and the rabbit puts his foot up, like that. That's kind of funnier. I like that. All right, let me clear that, delete that, come back down here, and rather than Bigfoot here, just standing still, which is always less funny. I'll say that I say it a lot when we're going through this. That when you're drawing, it's one thing to just have your character standing there, just straight up and down, but you want to uh, give them some kind of posture, some kind of movement that makes it go. Like the rabbit there is not only is he's got one foot up, he's got the body here is going back a little. I've got the shoulders going out to give him a little attitude, little posture. So let's see. We want to have the Bigfoot foot there, and Bigfoot is going to have to, because of his size, he's going to have to be doing that, and he has got to balance somehow. Like that. So yeah, see, by giving him this different posture, it increases the funny. Yeah, those ain't so big. Now it becomes our best. Um, those ain't so big, or you call them big. But by, again, what I was saying before, by changing his posture a bit, we've now made this a much funnier drawing. Much more. Even if it's not funnier, it's much more interesting. Right? We erase that. And he was saying, you called those big? Who is it that's texting me? I have a fairly good idea. Okay. Yeah. Okay. That's looking good. Now I'm changing the ears a little so that they're not just going straight down. I want to make sure it doesn't look too much like one of the existing rabbit characters. Alright. Those ears are kind of Tricks rabbit ears. Have to play with that a little. But let's go and do some line work. Got some good sketches going on here, and that'll do. So let's start with our rabbit. Alright, so got those half-lidded eyes because he's not impressed. I want to show that he's not impressed. A friend of mine reminded me the other day that a number of years ago, not all that many, I had a group of anthropomorphic rabbit characters that I had what's the best way to tell this story? So let's change this a bit. People often ask me, creative folks, that one of the questions we get from people who, let me try this one more time. People who make our living doing creative work often are asked by people who either don't do any creative work at all or just do it as a hobby. Where do your ideas come from? Where do you get your ideas? And it's a question that um, a lot of people will complain about. because that, well, as you'll see in the answer, because there really isn't a great answer to it. But it's a fair enough question, right? If you aren't someone that does this regularly on your own, it seems like a mystery. So how does this happen? Where do your ideas come from? Well, most of my ideas for years have come out of my sketchbooks, right? When I'm just doodling, right? I don't sit down with the intention to draw a thing. Just kind of draw what comes out of my head, and with that, sometimes you do something and you look at it and you go, I wasn't thinking about that, but that gives me another thought, and you then build on it and you draw something else and you draw something else, and before you know it, you've got an idea. You've got the makings of something. So my notebooks are filled with things that I have. I need to make that rabbit's foot just a little bigger for this gag to work. My notebooks are filled with these ideas, some of which I've used for comics or stories, short stories, or gaming adventures. Some of which just kind of sit there because I haven't figured out what to do with them yet. And some of them, there is no idea there. It's just a drawing I did, and it's all it'll ever be. But my notebooks are filled with these things. And every once in a while, I will, particularly when I'm doodling a lot, there often come ideas or themes. Like a character will show up and then show up again. Not intentionally, something in my head makes me feel like drawing that character, which makes me think more about that character, which in turn helps me with the possibility of coming up with an idea for a more complete story to go along with them. Now, all of that is to say, a few years ago, I had a group of anthropomorphic rabbits and other animals, but the main characters were all rabbits that were showing up a lot in my notebooks. And I put a little bit of work into trying to figure out something to do with them. They seemed to be in the middle of a story. Now, I'll tell you the most. There have been several points in my life where characters will show up in my notebooks, doing things, and I don't know what they're doing. And I just kind of, over the course of a few days or a few weeks, sometimes a few months, I will look at what they're doing and I'll begin to understand it. And suddenly a story will pop into my head. So clearly my brain thought of that story, but I didn't do it actively. I kind of let it percolate. And that's these rabbit characters were like. They were doing something. There was something going on. It was a little Cthulhuoid. It was a little Disney DuckTales. It was a little high adventure, kind of Tintin high adventure kind of stuff. It was just a weird mix of things, and I took a lot of notes, and I still have those around somewhere. And for a while, I thought that this was going to be something that I would be doing for sure, and I talked with some friends about it. But in the end, it wasn't coming together, and there was no real need to do anything, and so they kind of just stopped being in my active rotation. And that happens too, right? Something will be showing up in my notebooks a lot, and then it just doesn't for a while. My brain has had enough of working with that idea. Whatever it was serving for my subconscious, it was done. That effect had been served. So So those rabbit characters have have sat there, and they've come back a number of times over the years for a week or a couple of weeks, or sometimes I'll go back to them on purpose just to see if I can force that to happen. But it's been a while, and so just recently, now we get back to why I started this sentence. Just recently, a friend of mine asked me whatever happened to those rabbits, and at first I couldn't figure out what he was talking about. What rabbits? But then I realized that he was remembering the conversation that we'd had, where I told him about them. And so even though they were no longer top of mind for me, he had seen the drawings and thought it would be a good idea, and had been hoping that I really would get around to doing something with those rabbits, which I never have. So maybe this is a sad story because the rabbits still don't have anything. The last time I tried to use them, I used them as the hook for a um, rules light role playing game I was fooling around with that I needed to have some kind of setting, or you know, something that wasn't just the rules. I needed a narrative aspect, and I thought, oh well, maybe the rabbits. This I'd also been thinking a lot about Ducktales and Disney's Ducktales, and I thought, well, maybe I can use them as my Ducktales. That's always popular. It's a good way to get some um, people excited about what I'm doing. But as has happened most of the time with these game ideas, I fiddled around with it for a bit, and it wasn't working right, and there was no pressure, so I put it aside. And the ducks got put aside with it. The ducks and the rabbits got put aside with it. All right. So you call those big? Is that? Those ain't so special. Which one of those is better? What do you think, Michael? You call those big, or that ain't so special? I'll come back to that as the last thing. As so often happens, I can change the text of what we're doing a lot easier and more quickly than the other thing. So let's go to the gloaming brush that I like to do my coloring with, and start and turn off the sketch layer. I think the lines on this turned out really sharp. What do you think? It must be the marketing. Yes. Who's your PR team? And I'm definitely doing a shape within a shape thinking here. With the, Bigfoot is such an extended torso, and each of the legs and arms is its own shape. And then Rabbit will be a kind of light blue, maybe? Like gray, little gray hair. In a Bugs Bunny kind of homage. Darker gray for the eyebrows. And light pink. Fluffy pink. Here for the tail and the underbelly. Looking pretty good. So what I want to do, I want to come back here, go with a slightly darker gray, not as gray as I did for the, not as dark as I did for the eyebrows, but a little darker for some highlights, shadows. And our Sasquatch, our Bigfoot will get the same treatment. I think we want to come back with an even darker color for his eyebrows. Darker shade for the skin tone also, so we can get that in there. And then maybe a grayish green. Put a little shadow. And now let's see what we got here. It must be in the Mario. You have a good publicist, I'm guessing. Yeah, you know what? Those are good chewing around things, but I think that really it's either you call those big or those those aren't so special. And I'm leaning towards the second. So come back to the inking brush. Maybe it's because it seems more Bugs Bunny-ish. You know what? Rather, maybe meh. I want meh. Oh, good. The dogs are going to bark today. I was afraid it might be quiet while we were streaming. Meh. Those ain't so special. And what else? I want to give a little bit of motion again to show that Bigfoot's having a wiggle to get himself his foot up to do that. The bunny's not worried at all. He's got it. He's got no problem. And then we'll put a little stand in the corner because I think we're done. It's always the little yippy dogs. Well, yeah, they're trying to prove something. All right, there we go. Rabbitfolk. I guess really it's just a rabbit. If I wanted to make it Rabbitfolk, I probably should have put some clothes on them, huh? Oh well. Rabbitfolk and the Bigfoot sighting. Boo-doot boot, ba-doot boot. And there we go. First drawing of the evening. Done. That's a fun one. That's pretty good. Sometimes it takes me a drawing before I feel I get one that's um, hitting the marks. But I'm a God. I worry that I might have peaked too early. Ah, all right. Let's come back here and turn off round 1 and turn on round 2. Turn back on our sketch layer or our encounter tables. I'm trying. I like to keep the encounter tables, particularly the what side of the encounter tables, kind of seasonally themed. I'm having a hard time here in the September, the past summer. I mean, still technically summer, but past the end of vacationy summer, but not quite into fall. I had a little trouble. I just found myself pondering. What can I put on the list? I don't know. All right. Started with a Rabbitfolk and a Bigfoot sighting. Let's go back to the dice and see what we get for our second drawing. Come back here and roll the dice. Roll them dice. And we get an 8 and a 7. Wasn't 7 what we just had there? 7 was Bigfoot sighting. We got Leprechaun and Bigfoot sighting. Or if we flipped it around, we'd have a ninja packing a suitcase. Or we could do something else. Michael, what do you think? As the only person who is chatting in chat, I'm looking up here. I know we've got a bunch of other viewers. Thank you, folks, for viewing. No pressure on you. You don't have to come in and chat, but you are always welcome to. And right now is your chance. If you want to pop in, try and figure out what our second drawing is going to be, because I don't want to redo Bigfoot sighting. Although I suppose it would be funny one of these weeks to have all of them be the same what, right? So it's rabbit Bigfoot sighting and leprechaun Bigfoot sighting. And then for the third one, we roll another Bigfoot sighting. That could be fun. I don't know if this is the week to do that. Maybe it is. I don't know. Again, Michael, I'm going to give you a couple, well, not a couple of minutes, but a few seconds to chime in if you have any ideas. Otherwise, you know what? I'll just make a creative decision on my own. I do that sometimes. Something about a carry-on with a ninja. All right, ninja carry-on. All right, let's go turn off the image, and we'll come back here and let's noodle around with some ideas. All right, so first of all, it's going to be a very simplified ninja, as they tend to be. I tend to inking studio. Yes, okay, good. Come on. I usually just put a guy in a black suit and all you can see is his eyes. Maybe I'll give him a sash or a belt. and then got a couple of sighs. Ninja folding himself into the suitcase. That's funny. So we can have a suitcase. What is it that you one might always forget out of there? Right. Hold on. I forgot my. I almost forgot my toothbrush. That's what I'm thinking. All right. So what do I want to do? I want to erase this guy over here. I want to erase him. He's not coming out right either. Guy in the suitcase I like. So let's grab him and blow him up a bit. I don't know. Maybe I'm trying to make that to. So it's reaching over to close the suitcase. No. Trying to figure this out. Yeah, no, trying to beat the checked baggage fees. That's is that something that gets worked into the gag, or it's just an assumed? Um, all right, so see what I've got going on here. So the ninja's curved over like this, and his head's down. He's got one foot coming over like this, and this shoulder is reaching through, so he can make a point, I guess, or maybe just hold on there, and this finger is where he's making a point. That's how I'm got him laid out. In case you're wondering what all that scribble is, that's what I see there. Um, or I could have him reaching up to close it, and he's looking at us and saying, "How, you know, this is kind of what you were saying there, Michael. This is how I. This is how you beat those." For first, rather than what you have there is this is a joke about the check baggage fees, and say first check bag is free. Yeah, something like that. All right, this is a little tough. I'm gonna have to play around with these lines. This isn't making perfect sense to me, but I'm on the correct layer. Right, if I'm reaching up from here, the thumb is on the other side. Often when I'm doing these stretched out positions, I have a tendency. I think a lot of people do. You have a tendency to get the hand position wrong. The arm, when your arm twists as you do things, one of the ways that you make sure that it looks right is by making sure you get the thumb in the right position. Hmm. Now I've got to get that shoulder to roll over, but I can't let it go so far as to touch the leg because that will create a tangent that we don't want. Yes, I'm talking about tangents again. You, what I'm always talking about with tangents is when two lines meet in the brain tries to make something logical out of it. It makes uh, it you see connections that maybe shouldn't be there if lines touch and it doesn't mean anything. So you want to make sure you a put the lines where you want them, and b make sure that lines don't touch unless you really want them to. Now maybe now it's going to look like Racer X if I do that. I want to give him gloves that'll give it a little extra, and boots, and a belt. And what are we going to do here? I want the handle to be on. Going to have a little bit of twitchy motion because he's trying to fold himself up into the perfect shape. Trying to make this look like a furniture, a suitcase rack like you get in a hotel room. See, Michael says, ironically, this doesn't work on Spirit Airlines. That's funny. Maybe that, you know what? Just about all the things I'm thinking are saying the joke, right? And the joke is he's packing himself in a suitcase, and you can guess that he wants to get carried on. But saying something like that, then you're not telling them the you're not telling them what's obvious. You're saying another thing, which then makes them think about what's obvious, which makes the joke better. So that's what I'm putting here. I don't know that, ironically, it's not really ironic. Um, here's, I'm telling you what it is. We're gonna have, up here, I'm going to grab, I'm gonna add text in the way I sometimes do. Just drop it in, and we are going to make it say, Ninja Travel Hacks. Number 32. Alright, let's grab that. Let's change. I don't think that's a good font for this. But what would be Impact? Ninja Travel Hacks number 32? Impact's usually a good one to do. Yeah. Come on, grab the whole thing. Do it. There we go. Come here. We can do that. Yeah. Yeah, that'll do. Ninja Travel Hacks number 32. And say, this trick. Oop, come back to the lines layer. And it's going to say, this trick won't work on this track won't work if you're flying Spirit. Like so. There we go. That's how you work that. So again, rather than saying the obvious joke, we just put that. This trick won't work. Ironic comes from ninjas being spirits in the night. All right, well, but that's a big leap that a lot of people aren't. You can explain that. I buy that, but as with all the other things, I'm always talking about you need to make sure that the audience is going to immediately know what you're doing, whether I'm talking about drawing something right or not needing to draw something right. It's all about the audience immediately, intuitively knowing what you're talking about, and that's a leap an audience wouldn't necessarily make. If you say it, I think that everyone would buy it, but we're going for not saying it. So there we go. What do I want to clean up there? There's a little bit of extra stuff going on there, a little bit of extra business. All right. I think this is a pretty good gag. All right, so let's go to the color layer, and we're going to use a faux black, a dark blue faux black. I'm going to go back to our gloaming brush again. I'm going to use a slightly lighter color for the undersides of the feet. Maybe even lighter than that. You need to see it quickly and easily. And a darker, even darker, for the belt and the boots and the gloves. And the eyebrows. Gotta get some flesh tone in here. And we'll have a nice neutral color for the bag. And notice for these, all the bag and the stand, I'm picking one color and then picking a darker version of that color for the side, so that it immediately reads that you're not. It's on a different plane. Nope, that's not what I want. Okay, what do I want to do? What do I want to do? I want to put a little bit of shading. Now, it's a lot of black, so not going to worry about that. I think getting a little bit of shading on the eyes, the little bits of skin we see, is going to help a lot. And a little bit here. Already got 3 different shades of black going on. Again, faux black going on. So shading is going to be a little difficult to pick up. But there we go. All right, Ninja Travel Hacks number 32. This trick won't work if you're flying Spirit. And let's see, I'm thinking about maybe just putting a little color in the background. Just to give it some fake depth. There we go. What could we use here? I think that the Suitcase could use a little bit of shading. Why? Because there's just not a lot going on in this drawing. And that being the case, the sense of depth is disappearing. All right, there we go. I'm going to say that's good. Let's go back to our inking brush and drop a little stand down here because we have a ninja packing a suitcase. Right, that's what I rolled, wasn't it? Packing a suitcase. Ninja packing a suitcase. Good job, Michael. I think that your gag there really unlocked this and took me away from the kind of boring version I was going for. Anyway, there we go. Ninja packing a suitcase. Ba-doop, boop, ba-doop, boop. All right, so we will turn off group 2, turn on group 3, turn back on our encounter tables, and have another sip of the soda. Excuse me. Gotten a lot of drawing done this week. I've been doing a number of little projects, cleaning up some things. Did the live stream last night. I think the drawing turned out really well. I came back and looked at it this morning, and I was very happy with how that pencil version of the Northland Saga's cover came out. I'm hoping the finished version will look as good. It's not always true. Sometimes you get the line drawing done, and the colors just aren't as good as the line drawing was. Sometimes you have mediocre line drawing and the colors save it. That's working in the creative field. But I thought that drawing came out good. If you want to see it, you can either watch last night's show, which of course I highly recommend, or if you sign up for the newsletter, the 50 years in the dungeon.substack.com, I'll be posting that the sketch version, just this, what I finished on the show, to the newsletter next week. So show up. Michael, you didn't have to compliment my rendering. I appreciate when people say good things about it, but thank you. But yes, Brian Suskind, who was my guest last night, was very interesting. My first time chatting with him, and I had a great time. All right, having said all that, let's have one more sip. We've done 2 drawings tonight. We did a Rabbitfolk and a Bigfoot sighting. We did a ninja packing a suitcase. Let's go back to the dice and see what we get for our final drawing for tonight. Let's roll them dice, roll them bones, and bones. And we get a 6 and a 6, which is a beholder that is just exhausted. I was saying earlier tonight that I was filling out the counter tables, and I like them to be seasonable, or the what's in particular to have kind of a seasonal uh, um, touch. And I just couldn't come up with things. Just exhausted is one of the things I came up with. Like, I don't know, I can't think of anything. I'm just exhausted. So there it is. And out of nowhere, it comes up on the on our choice. So we're going to get to see a beholder who is just exhausted. All right. So our first 2 drawings have, one's been kind of straight in the middle. Okay, so this one will look to the left. Our last one look to the left. This one will look to the right. So, see, for just exhausted, part of that is facial expression, right? Beholders have a big eye. We're going to want the eye to be half closed with a kind of puffy lids on the central eye. We want the mouth to be down, whoa, just exhausted, but also not big, kind of down and small. Everything's a little saggy. In fact, the eye stalks are all going to be drooping. This is one of the questions we might ask for coming up with a gag on this is what is it that would exhaust a beholder this much? Why is our beholder so exhausted? And if we don't come up with that, we don't know need to know what it is that has made our beholder so exhausted. But we might need to know. So then the question might be, what does a beholder do when it's so exhausted? I mean, they float. They don't have to. They don't have to walk around much. And maybe we don't know. Maybe it's just saying, you ever have one of those days? Go. That's looking all right. Got different eyelids kind of flopping over each other. I just flew in from Australia. I just flew in from Munich, and boy, are my arms tired. What is it that's going to have an beholder so exhausted? I changed it so he's looking at us. I don't think I want to. I think I want to have him looking away. I'm thinking about. All right, so I can make him bigger, so it takes up the whole space. And then maybe we'll just have to come up with something for our beholder to be saying when all is said and done. Want him to look tired again. So we got that puffy eyes. I need to bring that out a little further. Puffy eyelid on his big central eye. Everything sagging down. What is it that has exhausted this beholder so much? And that's what I'm trying to think about. It, well, yeah, one of two things. Again, I said this earlier. Either what is it that made him so tired, or what does he want to do? What does he not want to do? What is he? I'm too tired. I'm too tired to even blah. What is that for our beholder here? What is it? What is it? Exhausts the beholder. Or what does a beholder do when they're exhausted? I haven't looked up to the chat room. Michael, maybe you've come up with an answer already, and I'm just whining here. Maybe not. Maybe someone else has joined the chat room, and they've come up with something. Doesn't seem like it. Tonight seems like a night where it really is just you and me, Michael. In the chatting part, I know we had more people watching, and again, no shade. You're welcome to hang out. I love having you hanging out. But if you were willing to talk, now would be a great time. Here we go. Let's see, what do we got here from Michael? Imagining Daisy and her friend lying droopily on a couch in the Great Gatsby. Yes, I'm so bored. Bored. But I don't know. I think there's a difference between bored and exhausted. Beauty in the eye of the beholder. Yeah. I think, yeah. It's a long way to go for those jokes. Looking at beauty doesn't usually exhaust one. I mean, if I were writing this as a piece of prose fiction, I would definitely have some kind of talk about, I'm so tired, even my eye stalks. My eye stalks. I would describe what we have here, like my eye stalks are drooping, and that would read funny. But since we already see it, it it won't read funny because we're just telling people what they already are seeing. Uh, all I want to do is lay back and rest my eyes. I like that. All right, tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to erase these here, and I'm going to move these words out from where they're sitting. And maybe we'll make this a thought balloon instead of a speak aloud balloon. tell you what I do want to do here. I'm going to change this a little on the mouth. I'm going to have this tongue lolling out. He's just exhausted. All right, let's turn off the sketch and see what that looks like. I'm going to want to turn the sketch back on when it's time to do the shadow because I like where that's placed. We don't need it right now. We've just got ourselves a knackered beholder. Okay, so let's pick our glowing brush. I like to do kind of a grayish green for beholders. Woo. Also want to draw on the coloring layer, not the lines layer. Again, I'm going to do the coloring to help me a little by having even the coloring is going down all the shapes. All these shapes within the shapes, they're going down to help get forward this idea of a very tired, very exhausted beholder. And go with a darker color for the eyelid like I was talking about before. I like to go with purple for the tongue. Go back to that darker color and put it on those chin spikes. Maybe use that also as a color for shading. I mean, he sure does look tired. I feel like I got that. And then here, we'll not loving how that came out. There we go. Another kind of redder purple for the eye. and a little bit of yellow. I'm getting tired just looking at this guy. Yeah, a guy with like a gallon of Visine. That's funny. that's that's funnier than what I got written. I'm going back and erasing what I have and putting that in. All right, go back to the inking brush, and we'll remove that stupid non-joke, and we're going with yours, Michael. We're going with yours. Anyone have like trying to get the word layout right. Like a gallon. Wow, I'm hearing I'm guessing that must be a car alarm, but it sounds like a sci-fi sound effect. I don't know if that's coming off over the mic to you guys, but yeah, it must have been a car alarm because it just stopped. And then on our colors layer, as I will sometimes do, I'm going to put a little lighter. I'm going to put some shading, so it just kind of gives the effect that the voice that's coming out is a monstrous voice. You want to have like a gallon of Visine. It was a handoff from Chris. Hey, Chris, glad you could make it. We're a good team, gentlemen. We are a good team. There we go. I'm going to come back. I'm going to put in my inking brush. I'm going to go back to my lines layer. I'm going to drop a stand on there because we're done. Well, that shadow is just not turning out to hold it on its own, so I'm going to add a few extra lines. We got it. A beholder who is just exhausted. That's our third prompt. That's our final drawing for the evening. Just exhausted. That turned out pretty good. Good work, guys. Good work. Good on ya. All right. Oh boy. Having one of those lives, Chris. It's what you see every morning. Oh boy. All right. Speaking of exhausted, I'm going to finish this and then, I don't know. I feel like taking the night off, but I also feel like I really shouldn't. You ready? You ready to head off into the weekend? I think I am. Okay. One more sip, and then we'll do an outro. And that'll be that. Tired beholders are your spirit animal? Okay, well, good to know. Gotta be hard to find good stuffed animals of that, one would think. All right, here we go. We have a beholder who is just exhausted. That was our third drawing. That's our final drawing for the night. A beholder who is just exhausted. Before that, of course, we had... Whoops, come on back. We had a ninja who's packing a suitcase. And before that, we had a Rabbitfolk in a Bigfoot encounter. Those are our three drawings. Three drawings make a fun evening, and this evening is done. So I want to thank everyone who stopped by. I know we had a fair number of people watching that I could see, but in the chat we had me and Michael and Chris. A good team. I'm saying that at the end. We make a good team. Funny stuff comes out of this. I hope more of you will be able to join us next week because things always get better when we have more minds in the mix. More people throwing ideas into the stew pot. Thank you all for coming. I appreciate you being here. If you want to see more of me, well, there's the Wednesday show, of course. You can come Wednesday evenings. I have the 50 Years in the Dungeon show. Same channel wherever you're watching this. YouTube is the preferred channel. If you're going to YouTube, I'd love it if you'd subscribe to my channel. That would be terrific. And certainly give a thumbs up or a like or a heart and leave a comment. You know, all these YouTubers and such, everyone asks for that because it's meaningful. It probably feels like not much of anything. Like they don't care what I have to say. Well, first of all, I do care what you have to say. But second of all, even if you just say something like, I'm leaving a message because you asked me to leave a message, it's very helpful. And it helps us get new viewers. It gets us more people to join us in the future. And as I say, more people means more fun. If you want to, though, see more of me and help to encourage me to do more things, support and underwrite the creation of more material like this, well then, coming over to my Patreon, patreon.com/Stanex. That's the way to do it. It's a fun community. I like to give little glimpses behind the scenes of what's happening and do nice things for my patrons. So please come on and join us. You can become a free patron, and then at some point, if the finances work out, maybe you can become a paying patron too. Become you can be a spirit patron and then a money patron. All that together, very, 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 very helpful. So I'm going to turn this off. I'm going to head out of here. Thank you all for joining me. I had a good night. Hope you did too. And I will look forward to seeing you next week for another episode of Random Encounters, plus other things. Keep your eye out. Again, if you subscribe to the YouTube channel, you'll always know what I'm up to next. So consider that, won't you? Till then, take care.